This right here, you guys, is where cops threatened to shoot and kill me as I tried to place my hand on that railing right there as I made an attempt to try to walk backwards naked as I was instructed. My wife stood right there and watched them threaten to kill me. Now, you might find it strange that they would park the cars facing the opposite direction. Now, is it because maybe they didn't want the cameras to see something they were doing? I'm pretty sure threatening to kill a naked, unarmed individual is something that would be frowned upon.
I wish we didn't have to go do this stuff. I wish the world was perfect and we could just, live happily without all this crap.
Sometimes, in the blink of an eye, an ordinary day can turn tragic. This is one of those true crime cases that when you hear it, you think, but why? But how? How did this happen? How could this have happened? A regular day when 2 police officers were tragically taken from their families, their friends, and their community by pure hatred that had been brewing. So how did it all unfold? What could have possibly led to this brutal act? Who was behind this ambush of the police? This is the story of officers Alyn Beck and Igor Soldo and the horrifying events that led to their deaths. To understand what happened that fateful day on June 8th, 2014, you must first understand who they all were and how paths of duty and paths of destruction fatally collided. Alyn Beck wasn't just a police officer. He was a father, he was a husband, and he had 3 beautiful children. His youngest child was just 9 months old at the time of this story. Alyn was a man of faith, a quiet protector of his community. He was born in Wyoming and he grew up with a profound sense of duty. Friends described him as kind and really, really funny and deeply moral. His ambition wasn't just about power, it was about service. He loved teaching his kids how to fish. He helped out his neighbours and he was a police training instructor who mentored the new police recruits. He was becoming a sergeant at the time of his death, and he was somebody that younger officers looked up to, both professionally and personally. And Igor Soldo, he was Alyn Beck's police partner. Although Igor had a completely different story, it was just as inspiring. He was actually born in Bosnia. At the time, there was a horrible war in Bosnia, so his family fled from Bosnia to the USA when he was a young boy, I believe around 13 years old, and his family found refuge in America, something that Igor never forgot. So growing up in the US, he went to high school in Nebraska and he became a corrections officer. He always dreamed of becoming a police officer so he could give back to the country that basically gave his family safety. And this was a dream that he did fulfill in 2006 when he joined the Las Vegas Police Department. Friends described him as serious but warm once you got to know him. He married his wife he met when they were both correction officers, and they had a young son called Logan, who was around 11 months old at the time of this story. Igor loved reading, he loved history, he loved traveling with his wife and talking about his dream of becoming a detective one day. Alyn and Igor were more than just colleagues, they were brothers in blue. They had each other's back, literally. On June 8th, 2014, they suited up like any other day, not knowing it would be their last. So on the total flip side, we have Jerad Miller and his wife, Amanda Miller, with a completely opposite background to the police officers. One marked with anger, instability, and radicalization. Jerad was born in Washington State and he grew up with a troubled background. He had early run-ins with the law relating to drug offences and car theft offences, and he had a deep-seated resentment towards authority. You could see he was one of those kind of guys. And when I say that, I mean, you know the type, the angry, the bitter, the kind of guy that constantly posts on social media about the state of the world and venting about how everybody and their mama is out to get him. You know the type I'm talking about, you know. Jerad posted on social media openly ranting about taking a stand and dying in glory. It was just weird and it was giving obsessed. He had so many incoherent rants on social media where he's talking about his encounters with the police, and there's even a video of him crying where he's bidding farewell to his wife because he's about to be taken off to jail for some other offence. He was just a hot mess.
I just want you to know I love you so much, and I hope that you will come visit me in jail. I'll still put you on the visitors list. I hope you can get over your thing. Come visit me on Sunday. It would mean the world to me. I don't think my family will, and I know your family's not going to. I just wish they could understand and see the things that we see what's going on. I wish we didn't have to go do this stuff. I wish the world was perfect and we could just, live happily without all this crap. But that's not the way it is. We're just going to tough it out, We love each other and that's all that matters. And, before you know it, I'll be back out and I'll be back in your arms. I'm just going to miss you so much.
So his wife, Amanda, she grew up in Indiana. Although she didn't have a criminal record, she too became disillusioned and drawn into this extreme conspiracy theory. The two met at a social event and they ended up getting married pretty soon. So they got married in September 2012. Together, they moved to Las Vegas in around January 2014. So they hadn't even been living in their state long when everything went down. Bear in mind, at the time, Amanda was just 22 and Jerad was 31. So there was a bit of an age gap. And it was obvious that Jerad was the controller, the one in charge. Interestingly, Amanda Miller's father said that he never wanted his daughter to marry Jerad. He discouraged it. He said that Amanda was doing well before she got together with Jerad and they moved to Vegas. So it's unfortunate that she didn't listen. Neighbours of the Millers said that they didn't have jobs and they were living on the edge. They just didn't have money. They were kind of just that weird kind of couple. Their apartment was full of weapons, ammo, firearms, holsters. And look at these pictures of the Miller's home. It just looks disgusting. It looks like a pigsty. Who would be living in that? They're clearly not okay. They're clearly weird individuals up to no good. They're dirty. They're doing stuff they should not be doing. Weirdly, some of Jerad and Amanda's neighbours actually said that Jerad used to dress up as the Slender Man. You know that character, that scary kind of tall, thin man? I don't know why, but it's all adding to their weirdness, really. In May 2014, Jerad even made a Facebook post asking for help to obtain a rifle. Together, Jerad and Amanda spiraled deeper and deeper into a world of anti-government extremism. They became obsessed with conspiracy theories about martial law, FEMA camps, and supposedly an upcoming revolution. For example, Jerad had previously made threatening calls to Indiana Bureau of Motor Vehicles. He was facing a $500 fine for driving in Vegas on a suspended license. Things weren't looking good for this couple. Jerad was so threatening to the Nevada DMV employees that 3 anti-terrorism detectives were sent to the Millers' home. I'm not quite sure why the Millers were not intercepted at this point, but somehow their threats of violence were not pursued further or taken more seriously. So the Millers were free to plan more violence against authorities in any way they could. They believed law enforcement was their oppressor.
I can tell you that there's no doubt that the suspects have some apparent ideology that's along the lines of militia and white supremacists. We don't necessarily believe that they are white supremacists or associated with the Nazi movement. We believe that they equate government and law enforcement fascism and those who support it with Nazis. In other words, they believe that law enforcement is the oppressor and they're associated with the Nazi movement.
Jerad was passionate about fighting against the authorities. So much so that he decided to join an ongoing armed standoff led by a man called Cliven Bundy. Cliven Bundy was a rancher who clashed with federal authorities. So Cliven Bundy had a cattle ranch in the Nevada desert. And in 2014, he had a very public standoff with the land management authorities about grazing rights for his cattle on federal land. So Cliven Bundy was arguing with the government about these grazing fees. And this land dispute had been going on and on for years. So Cliven had, in this time, managed to grow a massive group of supporters, including armed militia. He had links to some anti-government movements and had racist ideology. He made some pretty racist public comments. You can look them up for yourself, because that's a whole nother story. But basically, Cliven Bundy was a very nice man to deal with. And this is who the Millers, Jerad and his wife Amanda, wanted to associate with. So the Miller couple joined the Bundy Ranch standoff in April 2014. But even Bundy's militia members found the Millers unstable and dangerous. Imagine that. An illegal and armed militia group thought that Jerad and Amanda were just too extreme and too crazy to even join their group, which in itself just says a lot. So the Bundy family asked Jerad and Amanda to just leave their protest after a few days. Cliven's son, Alyn Bundy, told reporters that not many people were asked to leave. I think that they may have been the only ones. When the existing extremists don't want the Millers to join them because they are too extreme, then you know it's a red flag. In my opinion, it was at this point that their anger and resentment towards authorities just peaked. So the Millers decided that they were going to make their own public statement separate to the Bundys, and it will be soaked in blood. The Millers had a vendetta against the police and law enforcement in general, driven by extreme belief in anti-government ideologies. So, the morning of June 8th was the day they decided to carry out their deadly plan. Just the day before, on June the 7th, Jerad had posted a message on his Facebook page as a chilling warning of what was to come. It was a Sunday morning like any other, It was hot and sunny, which is typical for a June morning in Las Vegas. So officers Alyn Beck and Igor Soldo were grabbing a bite to eat at Cece's Pizza after a long shift working the overnight swing shift. So they were sitting at the front of the pizza place in a booth. They were relaxed, enjoying their lunch, unaware that death was at their door. As Metro police officers, I'm sure they were used to the ups and downs of law enforcement, the stress and the danger that their jobs entailed. But in this case, they had no idea, they had no chance to defend themselves. They were ambushed. At 11:22 a.m., Jerad, he firstly went into Cece's Pizza, had a little look around and asked the employee where the restroom was, probably just to scout the location at first. Then he went outside. 2 minutes later, Jerad returned with his wife, Amanda Miller, and together they burst into the Cece restaurant, and witnesses said that they moved so fast, almost robotically. Jerad pulled out a handgun and shot Officer Igor first in the head at point-blank range, execution style, before anybody could even react. Nobody saw it coming. Then as Officer Alyn rose to draw his weapon in response, Amanda fired at him, hitting him multiple times, even when he had already fallen to the floor. Witnesses ducked under tables. It was shocking. The Millers then draped a yellow Gadsden flag with a coiled snake on it and the words, "Don't tread on me," over the bodies. They even placed a swastika sign on the officer's body and pinned a menacing note on Igor's body. The note said the attack was the beginning of a revolution. This was a sickening final insult, just reflective of their twisted ideology. The flag, the swastika, and the note were a statement, a declaration of war against what they saw as an oppressive government and the law enforcement officers who represented it. They didn't just want to kill police officers, they wanted to make a public spectacle of it. So Jerad and Amanda then stole the officers' guns and they ran outside. They collected their bags that they had left outside the door of the pizza place. They had spent less than 1 minute inside that restaurant. It just happened that quickly. So after killing Alyn and Igor, the Millers left the pizza place and then they ran across the parking lot to a nearby Walmart. Yes, they were not done. They were not done. Once inside Walmart, Jerad fired a warning shot into the air and shouted, ordering all the shoppers in the store to leave the store because this was the beginning of a revolution. Shoppers were in a frenzy. They fled for their lives, running out the store, and calls to 911 were just flooding in immediately. A witness stated that it sounded like fireworks, like everyone started screaming. People were running everywhere. It was chaos. It was like a war zone. I can't imagine. I can't. This would be the last thing you would expect whilst doing your Sunday morning shop. However, one shopper inside Walmart, Joseph Wilcox, heard the shots being fired, but he didn't run. He was a 31-year-old civilian just going about his day shopping in Walmart with his friend Jeremy. So Joseph was legally carrying a concealed weapon, a Glock 9mm handgun. He saw Jerad and bravely made the decision to try and intervene and pursue him. He snuck up behind Jerad, holding his handgun in a low position, ready to draw his weapon to stop him. But unfortunately, Joseph did not know that Jerad wasn't working alone. He didn't see Amanda lurking nearby. And that's when Amanda shot Joseph from behind in the left side of his rib, killing him instantly. So now the Miller couple had killed 3 innocent people on their deadly rampage shooting spree. So inside Walmart, the Millers ran to the ammunition case in the sporting goods section of Walmart. They loaded Amanda's bag up with several boxes of ammunition. They then barricaded themselves inside of Walmart, exchanging rifle gunfire with the responding police officers who had now arrived. So the police had blocked the back door of Walmart with a squad car. Jerad then attempted to shoot open the door to escape, but this only opened up the door so the police could emerge onto them. So there were 5 police officers in this responding team. One police officer even joined a Walmart employee and went to the surveillance room so they could monitor the Millers' whereabouts within Walmart and then provide intel to the officers on the ground. So, as the SWAT teams surrounded Walmart and took position, Jerad and Amanda retreated into the vehicle section of Walmart. So the Millers and the police were engaged in a gun battle in the middle of Walmart. The officers tried to communicate with the Millers, but Jerad told the officers to stand down and demanded that he was in charge. Jerad and Amanda lay down on the floor of Walmart, grabbing random products from the shelves to try and get into a tactical position. Jerad even tried to place some items around Amanda in a defensive shield position, as she was actually suffering from a gunshot wound to her back shoulder. But they knew they were surrounded, cornered, injured and facing imminent capture. The couple made the final fatal decision. Initially, reports stated that both Jerad and Amanda took their own lives, but on further investigation, it was determined that Jerad indeed was fatally shot by the police during this confrontation. He was killed as he reached to grab some items off the shelf, and he was shooting at the officers at the time, and they shot him back. Before he died, it appeared that Jerad gave some words to his wife. So Amanda, rather than surrender, pointed her gun at her own husband and shot him a few times, and then turned the gun on herself, and then Amanda shot herself in the right side of her head. Jerad died at the scene of the crime, and Amanda, well, she was transported to the local hospital, but then she died shortly. They pretty much took the cowardly way out so that they couldn't be brought to justice for their crimes, but in the end, they died as they had lived, consumed by hate. The whole Walmart shooting lasted about 24 minutes. The Millers fired a total of 29 shots and the police fired back around 16 times. Hours after the Walmart incident, their home had been cordoned off, the apartments where they lived, and local residents said that the couple had been bragging about plans to commit a mass shooting. They were often handing out white supremacy propaganda. Another neighbor said that they were always running their mouths, talking.
It was a real extremist.
Neighbor Eric Howell says he learned early to keep his distance.
He always wore that camouflage coat, and I was told the reason why is because he always had weapons on him.
Their apartment was just filled with weapons and ammo, which was then confiscated, obviously. But I only wonder if the outcome would have been different if these things had been discovered earlier, when they had earlier run-ins with the law. But who knows? In the aftermath of the tragedy, the city of Las Vegas mourned deeply. Thousands of people gathered to honor the fallen officers. President Obama sent condolences to the families, and flags flew at half-mast in Nevada. Alyn was 41 years old and Igor was 31. They both left behind loving wives and children, young babies that were robbed of the future memories that they could have made with their fathers. Sheriff Doug Gillespie stated that today our community lost two dedicated officers, fathers, sons, heroes. Their loss left aching holes in families, in precincts, in the very fabric of Las Vegas itself. The district attorney's inquiry found that police had acted lawfully and were completely justified when they gunned down Jerad Miller in Walmart. Amanda's death was ruled a suicide. And as for Joseph Wilcox, the civilian who was gunned down in Walmart, he was declared a hero by Sheriff Gillespie. Joseph's friend Jeremy, who was with him in the Walmart at the time, that fateful day, said that Joseph had the option to go left and exit the store to safety. But instead, he went into the store and went after, chasing the gunman. I wanted to tell him, don't do this, come with me. But I also felt that he's possibly going to save some lives. Joseph's sister said that she was very proud to call Joseph her brother. He died attempting to protect others. His sister said that Joseph was pro-gun and believed that guns didn't kill people, people kill people. Ironically, Deborah Wilcox, Joseph's mother, said that he had wanted to be a police officer, but this was something she actually discouraged. She would tell him, I don't want to get the call and have two police officers show up at my home telling me that you were shot and killed in the line of duty. Then this happened. Joseph's family explained that Joseph didn't always carry his gun outside, but for some reason that day he had it on him. His mother said, why he had it on him that day, I don't know. This act of bravery cost Joseph, a bystander, his life. However, out of this awful tragedy, the community found some strength. Scholarships were established in Alyn and Igor's names. The police department founded the Alyn Beck and Igor Soldo Memorial Scholarship Fund, which provides scholarships for children of active duty police and correctional officers. Also, annual memorial ceremonies remind us of their sacrifice. Both officers have trees planted in their honor behind their command center. And there's a memorial in Cece's Pizza Place, the place where they were gunned down. A local park in Alyn's name was created with a life-size statue, a visual tribute to his legacy that lives on. And Igor also has a park dedication in Huckleberry Park, in the area that he lived. Alyn and Igor's watch may have ended, but their honor lives on. Alyn had served nearly 14 years in the police department, and Igor had served 8 years. In 2024, however, the tragic case of Alyn and Igor again got media attention for all the wrong reasons. This is partly why I wanted to cover this case, because it's important that the lives of Alyn and Igor and Joseph are not overshadowed by this political drama. So, former Vegas councilwoman Michelle Fiore was accused of using donated funds that were raised to build Officer Alyn Beck's memorial statue for her own personal use. It was alleged that she fraudulently pocketed the money for things such as plastic surgery, rent, and even to fund her daughter's wedding. And as a result, Michelle Fiore was legally convicted of several counts of wire fraud in October 2024. It was claimed that Michelle collected donations from high-profile citizens and promised that all the funds would go towards a statue honouring the fallen officer. But yet none of the money went for this intended purpose because secretly a private company had already agreed to pay for the statue. And then the kicker was that the president then pardoned her for her fraudulent crimes. Attorney General Aaron Ford strongly criticised Fiore's pardon, saying it was disgraceful that she stole from the police memorial fund and it betrays the families of fallen officers. Regardless of how you feel about Michelle Fiore's stealing from Alyn Memorial's fund, ultimately I believe that the story and the lives of Alyn, Igor and Joseph should prevail and should be remembered first and foremost. The tragic murders of officers Alyn Beck, Igor Soldo and civilian Joseph Wilcox not only took the lives of 3 heroes, but they also highlighted the dangerous rise of violent ideologies in our society. The Millers, with their belief in violence as a solution to political differences, were products of deeply divisive and fractured world, but their actions are a reminder that violence fueled by hatred has no place in our society. This is the story of Alyn Beck, Igor Soldo and Joseph Wilcox.